Respect it, I mean, we network across the globe, cause it's a global market in case you didn't know. And since we all about information flow, let me be the first one to welcome you to Tech Zone with Paul Amadeus Lane. Let's talk tech, cause technology changing the game. It's all good in the hood, it's everywhere. Now let's get to the show, cause we live on air, yeah.
Welcome back to our second segment of the show. I am Paul Amadeus Lane. Thank you so much for coming back. And if you missed our interview last week with Chris Hansen from Crime Watch Daily, Chris Hansen from To Catch a Predator, had a great conversation with him. Go to my YouTube page. Again, you can Google it, Paul Amadeus Lane on YouTube, and you can check it out. Or you can go to my website, paulonwheels.com, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers. Sean, not too long ago, we're only at like 300. Now we're almost at 2,000. Say it with me, Sean, 2,000. Yes, we are. So we thank you all for your help and support. When I was at the Black Enterprise Tech Connect Summit a few weeks back, one of the engineers there talked about there's a McDonald's in Arizona that's fully automated, meaning there's no humans in that McDonald's. What does that mean to jobs out there for kids who are trying to go to college and work their way through college or just trying to get a job to better themselves? What does that mean? Well, that means that we really need to be aware of shifting education to a particular, I guess, avenue. Which avenue you say that may be? I'm talking about STEM. Well, you know, when it comes to education here on the Tech Zone, I often advocate that we need to make sure that the children who are in school are learning the tools that will set them up for jobs when they get out of school. And there's been a shift in education. I remember when I was growing up, I'm not going to tell you how long ago it was, but when I was growing up, we really didn't have a push towards technology. It was just other things, manufacturing jobs. Well, it was kind of big when I was growing up. But technology, to a certain extent, because I went to the Urban League when I was younger and learned about computer technology. But the way things are now, things have changed. So we need to make sure that we're giving the kids the tools to succeed. And my guest that I have joining me, I'm so happy to have Rondalynne McClintock. She is an educator. She is assisting children and educators to make sure that they are meeting the challenge. She's from the Scholarship Club, FPC. Rhonda, how you doing?
I am doing well. Excited to be here today.
Rhonda, I am excited to have you with me. So, Rhonda, when did you know that there was a need, you know, being an educator for many years, when did you know that there was a need for children to kind of have their focus on education to the STEM world? When did you realize it was time to get that?
Well, as a degreed engineer, early on, I had just a penchant for people who were interested in STEM. Initially, my focus was on engineering, but adding the science and the mathematics to it. Later on, as an adult, with my own children, you know, being an engineer and their father being an engineer and us pushing them towards STEM topics, I found out that students didn't have a sense of what that meant to be in a STEM profession or as an engineer, because their day-to-day lives and their parents had jobs that were far outside of STEM. They didn't have a sense of what that meant to work in this profession. And so part of, initially, the problem was getting funding for schooling, for education, which is why my daughter and I formed the Scholarship Club FPC. The idea behind the Scholarship Club is to assist students who are seeking higher education to find funding. You hear it all the time. There's money out there, there's scholarships out there, and there's just not enough people applying for them. So what we did was we said, okay, well, we're going to help students apply for these. And started, you know, with the books and the laptops and just bringing a bunch of students into our living room. And that's when I began to notice that even though students are now considered digital natives and they can download iTunes and ringtones and all of that, having them go online and actually finding information regarding college or scholarships or education was very much a challenge for them. So we started out by assisting them in to meet this challenge by making a game out of it. We located what we call quick cash scholarships, scholarships where all you had to do was enter, put in your name, your email address, and they'll ask a question about something that's going on in contemporary society. At that time, I think the Twilight videos were coming out, or Twilight movies were coming out, so they would ask questions about the Twilight characters. And then you would be entered into it's kind of like a lottery to win a scholarship. Well, that was a way to gently ease them into the idea of using technology in a useful way for utilitarian purposes. So we were able to engage them with the promise of, hey, you can win scholarship money, and at the same time, use this technology to make it easier to help you achieve that goal. So that's how I initially got involved in it, noticing that, especially in our community, students are not using technology for utilitarian uses. So based on that, showing them how to actually go online, search for scholarships, fill out the applications, how to go about getting recommendations, how to write the essays for those scholarships, that led us into this whole focus of let's get you prepared, let's get you ready to be on a campus. You've already kind of identified that you have some interest in science, technology, engineering, or math. So now how can we set you up to be successful in that?
And Rondalynne, what has been kind of the, I guess, the feedback from students? Because you mentioned that in the community how ones don't really look at technology as a means to get educated in. They maybe Facebook, Twitter. That's as far as it goes. But when it goes into the meat of what STEM and the education behind it, what has been some of the feedback from ones that you might have been able to help in this field?
Well, one of the things that I hear a lot is they did not realize what STEM was in relationship to what they're interested in doing. So my PhD work is in information systems. So I really like to say, let's put the T back in STEM, because we focus on the science and the engineering and the math, but not so much on the technology. Well, the reality is pretty much any work that you'll do in society today will involve technology. So whether you're interested in art or music, if you're interested in science that doesn't seem very related to mathematics, you're going to either use some technology to do the work, to produce the work, or to distribute the work. So we one of the things we do is show them how technology is part of whatever area they're interested in, whether we know it as formal science, engineering, or mathematics, or informally that it involves. One of the things I ask them, or one of the things I tell them, is that when I was in high school, the work I do today did not exist. The value that I have is in learning and being able to take information and use it in new ways. And that is what they're learning when they're going into college and they're studying the topics that they're studying, is you're learning how to take in information and use it in new ways that have not been developed yet.
You know, and we have come so far in technology, Rondalynne, and to see where it is today. I remember we were both at the event. One of the things that really caught my eye was robotics now. How I remember one of the gentlemen on one of the panels talked about how there's a McDonald's in Arizona now that's fully automated. And he brought up the point like, okay, people, I think one of the audience members asked, well, does this mean the entry-level jobs are gone away? He said, no, what it means is that those former entry-level jobs, when kids being educated now, they can get the jobs to service the robotics, to write the code and things like that. And what's your take on that?
Well, again, that speaks to that whole idea of the work that we do, that we do now didn't exist maybe 20 years ago. And the things that you're studying today are preparing you to go into jobs that haven't been invented yet. So that's my whole take on it. It's like you're preparing. You don't even really know what you're preparing for, but you have to have the foundation because that work hasn't been invented. And you may be involved in inventing that work.
That is so true. And you know what? I'm getting screamed in my ear by my producer. She's saying, let the audience know what STEM is, because somebody may be tuning in for the first time may not know what STEM is. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So I did my bit for King and Country, Rondalynne. So my producer, Christina, can leave me alone. Are you happy, Christina? I said that. All right. So, and when it comes to the STEM education, what has been the feedback from counselors? Because you go and talk to guidance counselors and career counselors and really help them to see the needs on this. Are they on board with technology, or are some of them kind of like old school, like, well, I don't know, this is a fad? What's been some of the feedback you've gotten?
What I'm seeing is there's a mixed bag. Some are on board, some are not. The ones that are not really don't have a sense of what the technology, what STEM means in this, in our current economy. The ones that are on board are, and I love educators. I'm an educator. I do come from industry, so I kind of have that balance. But I see that they don't really have a sense of what that means. They hear the word computer scientist, they hear the term mathematician, but they don't really know what that word looks like. And so it to me, it produces a gap in them able to fully guide the student into those types of careers. One of the things that we've done with the Scholarship Club is we've begun tours of technology companies here in Silicon Valley. Because students and teachers really don't have a sense of what that environment looks like. So we've begun STEM tech tours of Silicon Valley to take students and their teachers or parents into a Facebook, into a Google, into a net apps to see what the day-to-day work looks like, to get a better sense of what that means.
And I'm so glad you're doing it, because I remember growing up and some of the tours we used to take. I can imagine. I wasn't interested in some of those things when I was growing up, the tours we went to, like the shipyards and that. But you see with technology now, I mean, some kids are interested in it because they use the Facebooks, they use the Googles. And how important is it for the next administration to really talk about STEM education? Because, do other countries, are they advocating this type of education? Or in the United States, are we kind of behind the times?
I think that just from my experience in working in industry and in education, that we really don't, our country can do more to embrace STEM for all of our community, all of the people that live here. I live here in Silicon Valley, and just because of who I interact with and what I see, a lot of our knowledge and our skill in the area of technology are coming from other countries. Their students are coming here to study, and they're staying and they're working in these industries. And I think part of it is access. Our students don't really necessarily have a clear line of access to the topics and the organizations that are making these opportunities available worldwide. And I think the other is just knowledge, just knowing that these opportunities are here and being able to avail themselves of the opportunities. So, no, I think that the idea of STEM has now been entrenched, that we know, at least cognitively, why it's important. We know that we needed to maintain to be competitive globally.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when you really get down on the visceral level, we don't have a sense of what that means. And things like taking students to environments where they can see what STEM looks like, taking them to events and institutions where you can actually interface with the results of or the fruits of innovation, like the Tech Museum in Silicon Valley, or the Computer Museum, or places that we just really don't seem to go in large numbers. I think that's what's going to bridge that gap between we cognitively understand that this is important and we need it to be competitive as a country.
And Rondalynne, let's talk about people skills. It's been said that, this generation, the newer generation, because of the smartphone, the cell phones, how the communicative skills are not where it was maybe when you and I were growing up. What can help ones to, embrace technology, but also the people skills too? What advice would you give ones out there?
Well, one of the things you hear, especially in the work environment, is just talk to people. Put down the phone and walk down the hall and talk to people. And I do believe that one of the skills that they build with the scholarship club is just that. We talk about how to build rapport. You can't just walk up to someone that you've seen, for the last 9 months as a teacher and ask them to write a letter of recommendation for you. You have to build a rapport. So going about doing that, finding common ground, talking to them, finding their interest, giving them information about how to contact you outside of that environment, outside of school. Those are the things that I believe are what's going to help them be successful in a STEM field, as well as what's going to help them be successful in the short term, which is finding scholarship money. Does that answer the question?
It sure does. Sure does. And Rhonda, what kind of advice would you give ones out there who are around the age where this could benefit them as far as their social media, how to keep the social media clean? I'm going to tell you, I've been in positions where I had to hire people. And what I do is I search Google, Facebook, you name it. What kind of advice could you give ones out there to keep it clean and up the board?
So one of the things we share with members of Scholarship Club is that social media is out here. You can control your brand. You can control what people see about you. So let's take that story that you're telling to these scholarship committees and these admissions counselors that you're interviewing with, and let's make sure that all aspects of you line up with that scholarship, line up with that view. So we don't have pictures of you out there boo riding. We don't have pictures about you out there drinking and doing crazy things. Use the privacy settings that are available through social media to make sure that you're not being tagged in photos that you didn't anticipate being tagged in, to make sure that only people that you want to see certain things are seeing them. Again, it comes back to the technology, learning how to use it to control your brand, which is you, how people see you.
Awesome. And Rondalynne, before we let you go, is there anything else that we didn't get a chance to articulate during our discussion right now that you would like to make sure you let the audience and viewer know about that?
Okay. Well, I would like to encourage students to begin applying for scholarships early. We start with fifth graders. You can begin actually as early as kindergarten, but we start in fifth grade applying for scholarships. So using that technology to go out there and identify where those funds are. The funds aren't necessarily awarded when you're a senior. They are awarded in your junior high school years or your freshman years so that you can use them to do enrichment activities or purchase technology that you need to help advance yourself. So we would like to encourage students and their parents to start now identifying those scholarship opportunities. I have 3 Facebook sites that give scholarship information, and there are others out there like me. Visit the scholarshipclub.com website and follow us and learn how to start tapping into those funds that are available now and how to use the technology in the best way possible to make sure that you're the most competitive.
Well said. Rondalynne McClintock, who is the founder of the Scholarship Club, FPC. Thank you so much for joining us on the Tech Zone. We look forward to having you back on again and talking to you more. I think you're doing an awesome job out there when it comes to the STEM, and hopefully a lot of schools and educators get on board, and guidance counselors to really get on board with the mission.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, and would love to come back, especially as we begin our tech tours in 2017. Would love to come and share that with you.
Folks, that was Rondalynne McClintock joining me on the Tech Zone, talking about education. And remember the organization? The Scholarship Club. Connect with them. Yes. Food for thought about technology, isn't it? I told you in the theme song, technology is changing the game. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. When we get back, we're going to talk about cloud computing and document storage. You don't want to miss that coming up here on the Tech Zone. I'm Paul Amadeus Lane. We'll be back right after these messages.